Hi everyone, and welcome to another U.S. News and World Report Google Hangout. I'm Stephen Holbrook, reporting for U.S. News Careers. Today's guest is Stuart Taylor, the president of recruiting firm Top Performers. He is a three-time President's Club Award winner and regularly runs group and one-on-one interview training seminars nationwide. Today, we'll be discussing some of the services Stuart's recruiting company offers to potential employers and employees, and some of the topics discussed in his book, How to Ace a Job Interview, Quick Tips for an Excellent Interview. Welcome, Stuart.
Thank you, Stephen.
How is LA, sir?
LA is wonderful. It's sunny outside. I haven't had a chance to get out and enjoy it yet, though, today.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. First thing we're going to talk about is your recruiting company, Top Performers. I'd really like you to talk to me about some of the services that your company offers to potential employees and employers.
Absolutely. Top Performers originally started out as a recruitment agency that did some training, and it's kind of graduated to a training agency that does recruiting. What we do is we offer interview training and consulting services for individual job seekers or entrepreneurs that are looking to expand their business. We also offer services for employers to help them improve their interviewing skills so they get the right people into their companies so that they, increase opportunity for increasing revenues, reduce turnover, and get a good fit for their company long term. Because a top performing employee is far, far more valuable to a company than a lower third or a lower performing employee, and often it's by millions and millions of dollars. So it's a great service for employers.
Okay. Can you talk to me a little bit about what sets your company and its candidates apart from other firms and their candidates?
Yeah, absolutely. Top Performers historically has earned what's called preferred recruiter status with a number of major companies. We earned this as a result of the caliber of the candidates that we sent through for submission. The majority of our candidates not only were top performers prior to, but became top performers in the companies we serve.
Okay, so next we're going to talk about your book a little bit. Besides the obvious interview advice that you offer, can you tell us a little bit about some of the other tips that job seekers will receive upon reading the book?
Absolutely. How to Ace a Job Interview offers some unique perspectives that are extremely valuable that you won't normally get. What makes them unique is when you're on an interview, if for some reason you forgot something, you can reflect back on these perspectives and ding, you'll get the answer or understand how to respond. For example, one is the dating analogy. I talk about that in my book. The dating analogy basically is that the dynamic between the interviewer and interviewee is the exact same as two people dating with the intention of getting married, minus the romance. Although you might want to kiss the interview at the end of the interview.
I don't know about that, sir.
You might.
Maybe.
But the parallels are uncanny. You're looking basically for a long-term commitment. You're essentially, quote-unquote, marrying into a company. Your needs and objectives have to be the same. You have to have a value add as part of that company. You have to be able to communicate well, effectively. You have to be able to fulfill the job requirements. It really helps from the understanding of focus. You know, are your goals in line, and can you provide long-term what this company needs, and vice versa. So that's one of the concepts that is tied throughout the book, and it's really a unique concept that is something you can reflect on when you're sitting there thinking, how do I answer this question?
You tested these tips that are in the book on yourself, correct?
Yes, sir.
Would you mind talking to me a little bit about that? That sounds really interesting.
Not at all. I had my recruitment agency for about 11 years before the economy hit, probably about 10 years. And with the layoffs, et cetera, some of my top clients, which were nationwide firms, also went through major layoffs, meaning they did not need my recruitment services because they were not hiring anyone. Unfortunately, that was kind of was a cataclysmic event for me, and I was forced to get a job. And it had been quite a number of years where I had not myself interviewed, and I went through the same anxiety that everyone else goes through before going on an interview. Like, oh my goodness, I got an interview for a job, and my palms got sweaty, sweat broke out on my brow. I'm thinking, how am I going to do this? And then I thought, wait a second, you're the guy that teaches people how to interview. So I actually reviewed and reflected on my own tips, How to Ace a Job Interview. The book was not out yet, but I had the general notes for it, and I reviewed all of my information, all the tips that I'd given everyone else, and I landed the first job out of the hatch. A year and a half later, I had to relocate, and I did the same thing, got the first job using my own tips. So, and then following that, I actually applied for a third job, which I was offered. I did not accept it, and I'm now back relaunching my recruitment business again.
Well, that is really interesting to hear. You don't hear a lot of these, a lot of interview coaches taking on their own tips to find a job. So that's really interesting to hear.
Stephen, it was great because it gave me additional empathy that I needed just to bring it full circle. You know, you can teach and teach and teach, and the old saying, those who can't do, teach. Well, I not only teach, but I actually did it. So I feel like it adds credibility both to me as well as my book.
Okay.
And the tips that I provide.
Well, speaking of your book, let's move a little bit further into that. You mentioned seven fundamentals in the book. Can you talk to me about those 7 fundamentals and how understanding them can help someone who is in the interview process?
Absolutely. There are 7 key fundamentals to a successful interview, and what those 7 fundamentals encompass are what the employer is looking for. So you would ask what are some specific things that set my book apart. Is it gives the employer's perspective. I used to be a hiring manager, by the way, just as far as my background, and I brought on top-performing teams. So I have the understanding of what the hiring manager is looking for in terms of what makes a great interviewer and what makes a poor interviewer. Starting out, fundamental number 1 is just a knowledge of what you want, a specific focus. And that focus has to be in line with what the company has to offer. So fundamental rule number 2 is understanding what the job is. They go hand in hand. You've got to really understand not, oh yeah, this is a good company or this is a big company, but what are the specific requirements of that job and that position? What is the industry like? What are the competitors like? Where most people fail is doing homework on yourself. You've got to come into an interview with an understanding of who am I? What are my strengths? You should know your top 5 and top 10 strengths. They need to line up specifically with what the job is offering. If I go to an employer and say, I'm really interested in this job, I'm really excited, I've done my homework and my research, I think I'll be a great fit. That's invisible to an employer. You got to say it with energy. It's really invisible. They're looking at you the same way if you're sitting across the table from someone that says, I really want to marry you. You're really everything I've ever wanted. You're terrific. It's boring. It's not credible, even if it's true. So you want to share it with enthusiasm. I'm excited. I'm interested in this position. These are the things I'm excited about. What are the next steps? And I say basically use the same level of enthusiasm on an interview as you would if you just want a trip to Hawaii. Be excited. And there should be plenty to be excited about when you've done your homework. Positive attitude. You got to have a positive attitude about yourself, about others. I talk about some ways to answer trick questions about how do you handle your greatest weakness, where have you tried your best but failed, questions that come up that are trick questions. So I walk through answers like that in the book, but basically you've got to always end with a solution. You've got to always end with something very positive about yourself or others, despite the fact that you may have had a very challenging situation to deal with.
Hey, Stuart, why don't you tell me, give me a specific question and answer situation that involves that. Like, give me a trick question that someone would have.
Okay, well, what's your greatest weakness is a trick question. Because if you can tell the employer what the weakness is, they don't need to look any further. Like, oh, thank you for telling on yourself. Next. You cannot say anything negative about yourself on an interview. That's fundamental rule number 5. Positive attitude. You cannot say anything negative about yourself. So, specific example would be, what's your greatest weakness? A bad answer would be, well, my desk at work is a mess. Or, you know, I get frustrated when things don't go well. Those are truthful, but they're not appropriate on interviews because that's what the employer is going to remember. An appropriate response to that would be taking something that you are perhaps obsessively compulsive about. My customers. My weakness is my customers. There is nothing I would not do for my customers. And your weakness basically has to be something that the employer says, I can use that weakness. Paperwork. It's a weakness for many of us. My weakness is paperwork. I can't stand paperwork. As a result, I've learned how to prioritize A, B, C, D so I can get through my top priorities and move on and make sure I get everything done. Again, it's a weakness that you've used in a positive manner.
So your answers to this question should be more solution-based than actually answering the question.
And be sure to follow it.
Hey, Stuart, thanks for your time. I really appreciate you coming by. It's been great. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Viewers can pick
Here's the
up
book.
Stuart. Viewers can pick up Stuart's book, How to Ace a Job Interview: Quick Tips for an Excellent Interview, in both paperback and ebook forms on his company website, www.topperformers.com, or in your local bookstore. I'm Stephen Holbrook for U.S. News. Thanks for tuning in, folks.